Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here with my new boyfriend, but he doesn't want to get in the camera because he's way too damn shy. But, like, come on, he's got, like, one of the most handsome faces you could imagine. Isn't that right, babe?
Hey, superstars! It's me, Freddy!
Now you want to introduce yourself. Oh, stop it. Yeah, sometimes I just need to remind myself and you guys, no matter how low I stoop, I can stoop lower. Okay, so, this is definitely a sentence that will make some of my audience feel extremely old. Five Nights at Freddy's, originally released when I was 10 years old. I am sorry. But recently, just the concept of FNAF was bouncing around in my brain again, and I've just been thinking about this really weird domino effect that happened with me with Five Nights at Freddy's, and I'm assuming a lot of people can relate to something similar to this. When I was like a wee little 10-year-old watching YouTube, watching videos that I definitely wasn't supposed to, it was mostly like, this is embarrassing to say, Minecraft trolling videos, where some grown man would hop on Xbox Live and just ruin this kid's entire ass build. But one day I was at my cousin's place because my mom had to go to work, so my aunt was babysitting us, and my cousins decided to introduce me to this thing called Five Nights at Freddy's. We watched Markiplier play it, obviously. It's like one of the most viewed gaming videos on all of YouTube. And they also introduced me to a little channel called Game Theory. From the time I was like around 10 to I want to say like 14, I was just absolutely fucking obsessed with Game Theory, dude. They were like one of the few channels where I like actually wanted to tune in weekly to like see what was up with them. And being exposed to that kind of content at like such a young age for such a long time, it absolutely like shaped my taste in YouTube videos for the rest of my life. Without Game Theory, I don't think I would have like gotten into commentary YouTube nearly as much as I did. Just something about the concept of like a video with a point to make. I know that sounds weird, but there's so much pointless shit on the internet. Growing up with Game Theory, it taught me to value like videos that have a point to them, or like a story to tell, or literally anything to say.
And no, I'm not referring to this guy's penis.
If it wasn't for Game Theory, I'd probably be one of those slack-jawed motherfuckers that's really into Kai Cenat and those kinds of streamers. And it's just kind of crazy that all of that started tumbling down from watching lore videos about Five Nights at Freddy's on Game Theory. Now, I was a very sheltered kid, so it kind of became like this tradition where every time I was over at my cousin's place, they would show me something that I definitely would not be allowed to play at home. I remember specifically like the lore videos about Five Nights at Freddy's, Skyrim. Again, I was sheltered. And just being able to enjoy that kind of content with my cousins just solidified my love of it that much more. Like, hell, if it wasn't for things like Five Nights at Freddy's and Minecraft, I would not make videos like the way I do today. I would probably be like begging for money on TikTok Live. And it's just like, FNAF didn't just have this domino effect on my taste in art as a whole. It had the effect on like the entire internet. Like, I cannot describe to you how intense Five Nights at Freddy's fever was when the game dropped. Probably the first time I ever witnessed lightning in a bottle in my life, and the way Scott Cawthon captured it was just really effortless in A, how quickly he was able to pump the games out, and B, just how much the games have shifted internet culture over time. I mean, for better or for worse, FNAF basically created an entire genre of horror games called mascot horror. Now, obviously, this isn't to say that like indie mascot kind of horror wasn't popular before FNAF, like Slenderman or SCP or anything like that, but FNAF just kind of gave it this character-based shot in the arm for the genre to like really explode. And soon enough, basically every indie game developer on the planet wanted a piece of that pie. A fucking Indigo Park, the most furry bait mascot horror I've ever seen. Bendy and the Ink Machine, Poppy's Playtime, Granny, Hello Neighbor, Baldi's Basics. It really vitalized just this entire genre of mascot horror. And that's why it's really unfortunate to visit the series today. Because FNAF originally felt like an innovator, a pioneer of what you could do with like a small indie horror concept. Just that first game having the idea of stripping any and all power away from the player so that they're just helplessly stuck in this office watching as these robots come and try to kill them. It's fucking genius. It's one of the most tense situations you could ever have in a video game. And so that's why I just think it's really unfortunate to see with some of the newer games like Security Breach and Secret of the Mimic, that philosophy just isn't pushed anymore. It feels like FNAF kind of stays in the confines of this genre that it created, rather than innovating like it originally did. A couple of years ago, when the game first launched, I checked back in with the series by playing Security Breach on stream. And man, like, that was one of the most miserable gaming experiences I have ever had. It was so buggy, the story was so boring, I didn't know what to do half the time, nothing was explained well, the UI was kind of ugly. Why the fuck were there generators in the play place? There was just a lot about that game that really rubbed me the wrong way, and unfortunately turned me off from the series moving forward. Yeah, I remember like when I was streaming it, it was like one of the most difficult games I've ever had to stream because nothing I really understood was happening. Now, is that because I'm a dumb little puppy with a puppy brain that can't understand shit? Yes. But also the lore got way too complicated for its own good, man. Diving back into FNAF lore videos these days paints an entirely different picture than like what we used to have back in the day. Oh god, I'm 20 years old and I just said back in the day unironically. Because originally you had this awesome story, but awesome. Originally, you had this story of this really derelict pizza animatronic place that went to complete shit, and it was so fun to try to figure out what exactly caused this thriving restaurant to shut down and become as derelict and desolate as it was. And it was really interesting to try to piece the lore together through all of the games that were releasing in rapid succession at the time. And what really made the lore accessible to people was how simply it was portrayed and presented. Because originally you had to like interpret these like newspaper clippings, you had to interpret all of these Atari style mini games, and it made it really enthralling to keep up with and try to figure out. Now, with the early lore of FNAF, I have my own theory, which is that Scott Cawthon was bullshitting the entire time. There's no way he had like a lore planned for the series when he originally made the first Five Nights at Freddy's, and then it blew up into like one of the biggest indie successes of all time. It was definitely one of those things that was made up as it went along, but that didn't really take away from how fun it was to try to piece together. The last thing that the lore did to really gravitate me toward it at the time was the fact that it was grounded. You were trying to decipher the supernatural elements of this Chuck E. Cheese. How did we get from point A to point B? And that's when we had Vincent, the purple guy. I still call him Vincent to this day. I watched a lot of FNAF YouTube as a kid. And trying to piece together like what his deal was felt like a realistic and attainable goal. He felt like a real threat in the series. But then there came a point where it just became this weird-ass sci-fi thriller, like especially in Security Breach. There's this whole sci-fi angle of like, if I have to sum it up, it's basically Horcruxes from Harry Potter, from what I can tell, where William Afton wants to like kill kids so that he can like live forever, and then he gets like his soul trapped inside of a video game, which is where Help Wanted comes in. And it just becomes this whole convoluted sci-fi mess, and it feels really cartoonish in its like portrayal of the situation, which is, you know, child murder. It just made William Afton as a villain feel 10 times less tangible than he did originally. I would delve deeper into like the themes that the FNAF story was trying to portray, but I want to try to keep this video a manageable length, so instead I want to go a little bit more into Help Wanted, the VR spin-off for FNAF. And I gotta say, like, I've played it before. Absolutely one of the best games in the franchise. Just the concept of Five Nights at Freddy's feels so ready-made for VR. I was surprised like it took that long to get that going. It's just like one of the smartest uses of this medium that I've ever seen. There's just such a specific tension about flailing your controller around in VR, trying to get to the right camera and trying to close your door, when all of a sudden you see this giant animatronic that just absolutely towers over you, walking towards your office. Sorry, what were we talking about again? I was having a lot of wholesome thoughts. VR just feels like the place where you can most effectively push the gameplay style of Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, is it smart for any developer to exclusively develop for VR in this day and age? God, no. But for me personally, I just care 10 times more about the artistic integrity of these games. To me, VR is just the most effective medium through which you can push the gameplay concepts that pioneered horror in like the mid-2010s. No matter how you feel about Five Nights at Freddy's, you have to admit this franchise is really important. It's not just to me, not just to like the fans of the series, but like to internet culture at large. It changed the way that people told stories through their games, for better or for worse. The sheer amount of references to Five Nights at Freddy's you find scattered throughout the internet, it's just insane that an indie game made by this one guy has this much cultural staying power even 10 years later. I can't tell you how many like Five Nights at Freddy's brain rot memes that I scroll across on TikTok, and I'd like to take this moment to brag that Xenon the Fox.
When archaeologists dig up human remains from 1,000 years ago, they're always either male or female.
Well, at least they didn't dig up Freddy Fazbear.
Yes, that guy, Xenon the Fox, commented on my TikTok, "Why the Umbreon built like that though?" I don't think I'm ever gonna receive more fame on the internet in my life. So yeah, that's all I really have today. A lot of thoughts about Five Nights at Freddy's have been bouncing around on the old puppy noggin for a bit. I just needed to get that out there. And also take a little break from the long-ass fucking video that I'm making. For those of you who don't know, I'm working on this really stupid long video about like mental health. It touches on a bunch of topics that I'm really passionate about, and I just really wanted to do the video justice, which is why it's taking so damn long. From like what I can tell so far, the length is gonna be like at least an hour and a half. I'm sorry that I've been gone for like 2 months. Thank you guys so much for your patience. Recording this, and I'm sure editing this too, will be a really nice break from like the absolute torture that it is to go through self-help on TikTok. If you are curious about that video though, I currently have part 1 of that like mini-series up on my Patreon currently. It's all about like how I take a couple of specific examples, break down why the internet can be not the best place to get coping strategies for your mental health. And it's definitely like one of my proudest videos I've ever made. Absolutely. If you have the funds, please go check it out on my Patreon. If not, don't worry. I will be posting all of the parts to YouTube once the entire miniseries is done. I've also got like a bunch of other videos on my Patreon, including an unedited VOD of me getting B-roll for this video. So if you want to watch me piss my pants talking about FNAF and like ramble a bit, there you go. There's 40 minutes of that. Yeah, again, thank you all so much for being like the most patient people in the world. I'm really grateful that I just like have this many people that like watching my stuff. It feels really surreal. For the longest time, like YouTube, like I was mentioning earlier, became like one of my biggest passions in life, and I just have had a lot of experience with people that really didn't seem to see the same artistic value that I did in the medium. So it's just like such an honor to have this many people that also share that passion for the medium with me. If you want another free video to watch, you should check out my latest collaboration with Campfire Harvest. It's part 2 of our drinking game where we try to guess how woke certain games are. Please go check it out. Camp did an outstanding job putting this shit together. And yeah, that's about it for me. I'll see you guys next time. Mwah. Fuck, I immediately forgot what I was talking about. This is stupid fucking... Yeah, I'm definitely gonna get like a power outage jump scare for sure. I'm screwed. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh my God.